is Mississippi State. It's a team that's got a little bit of pop offensively, but no pulse defensively. Tennessee better do what it needs to do on Saturday. That, so much more. It's your Wednesday Locked On Vols.
You are Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome into it, your Wednesday morning edition of Locked On Vols. I am Eric Kane. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast. You everydayers, thanks so much for joining us and making this show exactly what it is. I see a lot of you guys on Saturdays walking to the stadium, and if you ever see me, just yell at me, come up and slap me across the back and say hello. Really do appreciate that. It's awesome, and it's a reminder of just how cool this little community is. So thank you for that. Got a loaded show to get into today. Grant Ramey is going to join us here in segment 2, talking about Tennessee basketball and the win over Gardner-Webb. Ward Wednesday, we'll talk a little hoops, talk a lot of football in segment 3. But first, here in segment number 1, we're going to dive into who Mississippi State is and just how bad that defense is, what it can mean for the University of Tennessee. That is coming up here in a matter of seconds. Couldn't do the show without our friends over at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, put in the promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Thank you to our friends over at Game Time. All right, Mississippi State. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. And again, we've said this repeatedly going into matchups before. Going into the Florida game, you're like, Mississippi State ran for 240 against Florida. And Tennessee struggled to get that run game going or that offense. And going into the Kentucky game, well, Auburn ran for 200 or 300 whatever yards against Kentucky. And again, these weren't bad days running the football, but you just felt like there's so much opportunity. But here we go again, guys. Mississippi State's defense is atrocious. Just atrocious, okay? Put this in perspective, okay? Try this on for size. 16 teams now, not 14. 16 teams now in the Southeastern Conference. You have Mississippi State, who ranks... Let me just pull up my first glance here and just read a few things from you, okay? I wrote this, so I'm not even going to quote myself. I'm just going to go word for word. This is from my first glance piece over at VolQuest.com. I said I'm not going to quote myself, but here I go. Quote, where there's a clear direction and focus on offense, the same can't be said for the Mississippi State defense today. The group ranks last in the league in points allowed, 34.6, yards allowed, 461, passing yards allowed, 250, and rushing yards allowed, 211 on average. To put things into context, Arkansas is the second worst in points allowed per game, and that total is 8 points lower than what Mississippi State is doing right now. Arkansas allows 26.3 points per game, and Mississippi State allows 34.6 points per game. Additionally, Florida's rush defense ranks 15th in the league, while giving up 162 yards on the ground. That's an astounding 49 yards less than where Mississippi State currently stands. Again, the Bulldogs allow 211 yards on the ground a game. The 15th ranked team in the SEC out of 16, Florida, allows 162. Goodness gracious. Twice this year, Mississippi State has allowed over 600 yards of total offense to its opponents, Georgia, Arkansas. In 2 other games, the Bulldogs allowed 500-plus yards, Florida and Texas. Mississippi State has allowed an incredible 346 yards rushing to Arizona State in week 2 and 359 yards rushing to Arkansas 2 weeks ago. Boy, first of all, Arkansas's offense, not bad. I think we learned that during the game a couple weeks ago. But man, this defense is just horrendous. Goodness gracious. So that is how bad the defense is. Tennessee's offense needs to go for 4 quarters, needs to score 40 points, needs to look like itself. And again, we continue to talk about things. Last week, it was not finishing in the red zone, not finishing drives, your receivers letting you down, the tackles are better, the quarterback's better, the run game's there. Just you're putting things together now, you're getting better week by week. Now put it all together and go. And once that thing clicks, boy, it's gonna be a wild ride. So defensively, not great. Offensively, there is a pulse a little bit for Mississippi State. They rank 12th in the league in scoring, 29.1. 398 yards total offense, that's 10th. Passing, they're 6th at 255 yards per game. Rushing, they're 14th at 143. Again, not all-American status, but there's there's a direction there. Blake Shapen, who came over to be the starting quarterback from Baylor, is out for the year, and so it's true freshman Michael Van Buren Jr. Michael Van Buren Jr. is the starter now, and he's been fine, completing 57% of his passes, 9 touchdowns, 4 rushing touchdowns, 4 interceptions. They don't really have a fantastic run game, but it's solid. It combines 6 rushing touchdowns from the top 2 backs. Devin Booth is their starting running back, and he's also one of their leading receivers, leads the team in receiving touchdowns at 4, or second at 4. Got a couple nice receiving options for Van Buren Jr., Mario Craver, former Tennessee commit. Kevin Coleman transferred over from, where did he transfer over from? Louisville after starting his career at Jacksonville State. Couple different options there. So offensively, not great, but clearly they go tempo. They run that same variation of the Heupel offense that Levy runs, and it's much, much better shape for the 2-7 Bulldogs, 0-5 in league play. Mississippi State won its opener against Eastern Kentucky. It won its last week's game against UMass. It lost 7 straight games in between. Mississippi State is 1-7 against FBS opponents this year. 1-7 against FBS opponents this year. So there is that. A little bit of a scout on Mississippi State. We'll continue to do keys to the games and all that and more as the week goes on. But I do want to get Grant Ramey in here to talk a little Tennessee basketball. Season opening win over Gardner-Webb. That was Monday night. All that and more is coming up as we continue here on this Wednesday edition of Locked On Vols. Guys, sometimes intimate moments happen spontaneously, all right? Let's be mature about this. We always want to get ready so we can perform in the bedroom. Hims provides access to treatments that can help you stay the way you need to stay. I'm not going to read that word that's on the script, but the way you need to stay and last longer, giving you the boost of confidence so you can be ready whenever the mood strikes. Your sex life is important, but your schedule is busy. You don't have the time to go to the doctor's office and get treated for ED. Through Hims, you can get a personalized ED treatment plan without stepping foot outside your door. That's nice, right? Hims is changing the men's health care by providing you with access to affordable sexual health treatments from the comfort of your couch. Hims provides access to a range of doctor-trusted ED treatments like chewable hard mints, Viagra, Cialis, and their generics for up to 95% cheaper. The process is 100% online, so there's no need for those uncomfortable doctor visits. You guys know what I'm talking about. Just because Tennessee can't score in the red zone doesn't mean you can't. You can do it with Hims. Start your free online visit today at hims.com/lockedon. That's HIMS.com/lockedon for your personalized ED treatment options. HIMS.com/lockedon. The products mentioned are chewable compounded products, which are not approved by a verified or safety or effectiveness by the FDA. Prescriptions required online consultation with the healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies on product and subscription plan. So a big thank you to our friends over at Hims. And of course, want to give a shout out to our boys and gals over at FanDuel Sportsbook. Get ready to tackle the NFL action at America's #1 sportsbook. That is FanDuel. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view the live play-by-play, and so much more, all while being on the same page where you make your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first bet. All that and more to FanDuel.com. FanDuel, it's America's #1 sportsbook. FanDuel, it is where you can make every single moment more. Hey, Grant, the season opener a couple nights ago, Tennessee over Gardner-Webb, and from the little bit that I watched and listened to, and checking out your and Rob's work over VolQuest.com, and kind of the conversation is, it was fine. I mean, Tennessee did what it was supposed to do. Probably didn't start or finish the way that Rick Barnes wants them to, but a big win over a team that you're supposed to beat, and it feels like that might be, I don't want to steal a line from you guys, but might be kind of the new norm in season openers, right? You're trying to figure things out because this is a brand new basketball team.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to be limited to the season opener either. I think that could be the first month of the season, the first couple months of the season, depending on how much kind of roster overhaul you had. And this Tennessee roster has more overhaul this season than we've seen in a few years because you lost a couple fifth-year guys in Santi and Josiah that had been around for so long and had played so many minutes. You bring in four transfers, not only four transfers, but three of them right now that are playing really big roles and starting and stuff like that. So they're going to be big time producers and stuff you're expecting. So you're trying to figure out how to play with them. If you're Zakai Ziegler, he's been here for 4 years, but he's trying to get used to some new teammates. Jemai Mashak, the same thing. Like there's so many new faces and new pieces on this roster that it's going to take some time. And Gardner-Webb, they were better than I thought they were, tougher, well coached, execution wise. Daryl Simmons, that guard, he put 22 on Zakai Ziegler. That's hard to do. Like he's a good basketball player. So I was impressed with them. Tennessee started slow, kind of struggled to kind of put them away. They built the lead to 27 in the second half. They played much better. Then they kind of let their foot off the gas. Gardner-Webb got back within 10, 12, whatever it was late there. So slow start, slow finish, but you did enough in between to kind of feel good about kind of what's next and moving on. Obviously a much tougher test when you go on the road Saturday at Louisville. But that's what these early season games are for. You got to figure yourself out. You got to figure out what this team's going to be, how these pieces fit together. And they've been together all summer, all off season, all spring, fall. They practice and work out all summer. But it's a little bit different when you get on the game floor and you got to figure out in a game setting kind of how all these pieces fit together.
Several things I want to ask you, but first, I didn't watch the post game press conference for the visiting Gardner-Webb ball club, but I saw a lot of tweets. That coach seems like a character. He had a couple of one-liners in there. How funny was he? And overall, how much better was this Gardner-Webb team than you thought it would be?
He was hilarious. He was also very impressive in game, just the way his team played and executed. But he comes in really quick after the game and he sits down, and you can tell he's kind of enjoying the press conference. He's talking about going to Food City Center for the shoot around the night before the game, and his kids were running around stealing drinks out of the refrigerators. He said Thompson Bowling's got more refrigerators than any building he's ever been in, and you can fit more people in there than you can fit inside the town of Boiling Springs, North Carolina, where Gardner-Webb came from. And he talked about covering the spread. He said, I don't gamble, but somebody told me we covered the spread. So how about that? And he was talking about, I hope Tennessee doesn't he's talking about Buddy Simmons, the kid who put 22 on Tennessee from that guard position. He said if he was 6'1" or 6'2", teams like Tennessee would be after him if he wasn't 4'7". I went and looked at their roster. He's listed at 5'11", so I don't know what the problem is there. And he also said, you don't want the secret to get out too much about those guys who play well because you don't want teams like Tennessee coming in with a big NIL offer and stealing those players. Now, he said it with a laugh, but that really is a struggle for guys at that level. Yeah. Like, you want good players, but you don't want them to be so good that they're going up to the next level and leaving you behind, which that's kind of the new reality.
I thought he was funny. Everything that I saw and everything that I read from post-game stuff, I thought he was funny. Probably the biggest story of the night, was a guy who didn't play, a guy that didn't suit up. Tennessee missed a couple of guys, but one being Darlington Dubar, who was out due to a personal matter. Anything on that, Grant? And tell us about the injury situation. Looks like Felix Akpara's got a hip pointer. Feels like this Tennessee team's kind of beat up to begin the season.
Yeah, it's beyond personal matter, there's not really any details or specifics with Darlington Dubar. He didn't practice Thursday at Pratt Pavilion. That was the last time we saw an open practice before the Gardner-Webb game for the same reason, personal matters, and there was nothing really given to us beyond that. We asked Rick about it after the Gardner-Webb game. He said, he's got the support of his teammates, his coaches, everybody around him. He's been around the team. They love him, all that stuff. And his timeline moving forward is kind of up to him because as he deals with whatever he's dealing with off the floor. I don't know how specific it's going to get outside of that. That's just kind of the update for now. It's a personal matter, and that's that. And his timeline moving forward is up to him. Injury-wise, yeah, it's a kind of a banged-up basketball team because Rick said Monday night that Felix Akpara has been dealing with a pretty serious hip pointer, which is a big deal. It wasn't something he suffered Monday night. It's been in practice at some point leading up to the Gardner-Webb game.
Those hurt very bad.
Yeah, and Rick said you can kind of see it in practice on film, like he's kind of protecting himself with his hands sometimes with that hip that's hurting. JP Estrella was basically ruled out at shoot-around because of a right ankle issue, and then he decided that he wanted to go. Rick told Bob Kessling on the pregame radio recording that JP was going to be out. And then you got Bishop Boswell in concussion protocol, which he didn't practice Thursday either the last time we saw those guys over at Pratt. So for November, whatever the date is, 5th, 6th, whatever it is, it's a pretty banged up basketball team. But The fact that JP played, the fact that Felix played, I think that's good signs that it's nothing crazy and they can work their way through it.
Looking at the box score and just watching the game in general, a couple things you like there. I mean, Chaz Lanier, obviously a much better shooting night, was in the starting lineup, compared to the Indiana exhibition. So Chaz shot it much better. And Jordan Gainey shot it really well off the bench. And, those are two guys that I think, when you're trying to talk about replacing all that was Dalton Knecht, you're not going to have a new Dalton Knecht, but you need to replace the production. And obviously you bring Chaz in to score, but you brought Jordan in last year to score. And if you had that type of production, you're not going to get 16 out of him off the bench every game. But, if Gainey can give you, close to double digits off the bench in terms of scoring, that is a massive boost.
Yeah, I think he's very much an X factor. I think he's very much improved, it seems, from what we've seen so far. I mean, small sample size, obviously, but he looks a lot better. Rick was talking about that Monday night, kind of the confidence, the work that he puts in, kind of understanding what they want to do and how they want to do it, and kind of filling out that role. There's a message Tuesday morning on the general quarters on VolQuest about Chaz not being Dalton Knecht. No, he's not going to be Dalton Knecht. I'm not going to be Brad Pitt. That's very one-time thing. Like it's not coming around very often.
You're
like
better than Brad Pitt.
Yeah, appreciate that. DK, I mean, you bottled some lightning there. That was really, really special. But Chaz, what you saw against Gardner-Webb is kind of what Tennessee hopes Chaz is pretty consistently for them. He went 4 for 7 from 3. I think he scored 18 points. Like that 3 for 16 and 2 for 12 from 3 that he was against Indiana, I don't think that's him. I don't think anybody expects that to be him. I don't know what that was. Maybe just the first debut kind of in front of Tennessee fans, kind of on that stage. But he settled in, made that first shot against Gardner-Webb. I think that was a big deal and went from there. But if you can get that somewhat consistently from Chaz, somewhat consistently from Jordan Gainey, that's a huge deal. And then you got Zakai kind of being Zakai. He's struggling from 3 right now, but he had 7 assists in the first half. He's going to find ways to score and lead this basketball team. And you'll go from there if you can get that kind of production from those 3 guys.
Grant's out the door here. Tennessee and Louisville coming up on Saturday on the road. It's going to be a day game. It's one of those I'm talking about night games, day games, like this is football. It's going to be one of those like early season tests, and it could be one of those wins or losses that you look back on in February when trying to compare resumes. What does Tennessee need to do to be successful that they didn't do too well on Monday night?
You better start faster. Going on the road with this new group, trying to figure out all these new pieces. You better settle in as quickly as you can because it is a road test. The first week of November, it's going to be tough. It is noon on a Saturday. For the life of me, I don't understand why that's not a Friday night game, but it is what it is. It's a football Saturday. But Tennessee went to Wisconsin last November. That was a Friday night game. Dalton Knecht played really well. They settled in quickly. I don't know how much they trailed in that game or if they ever trailed. It just kind of felt like wire to wire. They were pretty impressive. Now, this group, it's obviously a ton of new pieces that we've talked about. They're going to have to go up there and kind of settle in quickly. Obviously, Louisville's been awful the last couple of years, but they got Pat Kelsey now, the coach that came from College of Charleston. They're going to be a good basketball team. He knows what he's doing. He knows how to recruit and collect talent. So they're going to get back to kind of being what you would expect from Louisville. And it's going to be a tough test. Honestly, I don't know how it goes for Tennessee. If they do lose that game, it's not the end of the world. Obviously, the sky's not going to be falling. No reason to panic, but, it's the first week of November. You're going on the road to face an ACC team. It's going to be a really tough test.
Grant, as always, man, thanks so much for joining the show. And what do you got coming up over at VolQuest.com as we move on throughout the week? And, of course, it's busy season for you. Basketball, got a little baseball. I know you're not doing anything baseball right now, but football, of course. What's coming up over on the show?
It's insane time of year, crossover season. I guess 3-time crossover season when you count in fall ball, even though I don't have to do anything for fall ball. That's not my problem. That's your problem.
That is my problem, yes.
Saturday at Louisville. Here's the thing, double header. We're going noon Louisville basketball, 7 o'clock Mississippi State football back in Knoxville. We're going to try to make that happen. And I thought that was going to be the toughest turnaround, the foreseeable future. But Tennessee goes to Georgia in 2 weeks for football, 7:30 kickoff in Athens. Tennessee basketball plays at 3 o'clock the next day. So that's going to be Pain City. But, it's November. It's crossover season is what it is.
How much caffeine are you going to be taking in that day?
Listen, plead the fifth. Just know that all this I'm complaining about, it beats working for a living.
It absolutely beats working for a living. Grant, thanks so much, man.
All right, see you, bud.
Want to tell you guys about my friends over at Z-Biotics. Z-Biotics pre-alcohol probiotic drink is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Pre-alcohol produces that enzyme to break it down, that byproduct. Just remember, make Z-Biotics your first drink of the night. Drink responsibly, and you'll feel your best tomorrow. So here's the steps right here. Step 1, pre-alcohol. For best results, make pre-alcohol your first drink of the night. Step 2, drink responsibly, pace yourself, hydrate, and get a good night's sleep. Step 3, enjoy tomorrow. Wake up feeling refreshed and ready to take on the day. Go to zbiotics.com/lockedoncollege to learn more, to get 15% off your first order when you use Locked On College at checkout. Z-Biotics is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee, so if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund you your money, no questions asked. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/lockedoncollege and use the promo code LockedOnCollege at checkout for 15% off. That is Z-Biotics. And, of course, friends over at Game Time, download the Game Time app, put in the promo code LockedOnCollege, and you'll get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create that account, put in the promo code LockedOnCollege. You're going to get $20 off your first purchase. What is Game Time? Well, it's an app where you can buy tickets to events in your area. Sporting events, Food City Center, basketball season is ready to roll. Neyland Stadium, we're still wrapping up football season. Hopefully there'll be a home playoff game on the horizon, right? And Lindsey Nelson Stadium for baseball, Sherry Parker Lee Stadium, all that and more sporting events on campus, anywhere you live, but also events, concerts, comedy shows, monster truck rallies, whatever is happening in your area, chances are you can buy tickets to that event on the Game Time app. Plus, the Game Time ticket coverage, you work with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry, all-in prices. It's a toggling feature that shows you the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout, and the lowest price guarantee, where Game Time is going to credit you 110% of the difference if you find a cheaper ticket somewhere else in the same section. Download the Game Time app, put in the promo code LockedOnCollege for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Josh, another win for Tennessee football, 7-1 on the season, 4-1 in SEC play, welcoming Mississippi State to town this weekend for the final tune-up, if you want to call that, before heading down to Athens for the Georgia game. A little bit of a lot of the same, slow start offensively, coming on strong, but I think again, this offense, and people are getting tired of it, but I mean, it got better. I mean, they're improving, but it's still not where it needs to be. Good morning.
Yeah, if you're a Tennessee fan saying, I'm tired of hearing about the opportunities that are there, I'm tired of hearing about all the potential, I'm tired of hearing about they did this better or they did that better, I want to see results. I don't have anything to combat that. You are correct if that is your opinion, because Tennessee does need to produce more. You don't get rewarded with points for yards or how close you were. You get rewarded with points if you put the ball across the goal line, holding it in your hands securely, if you put the ball through the uprights, kicking it that way. And Tennessee didn't do those two things enough. Drops at the receiver position, 0 for 3 on 3 very makeable field goals. Those will cost you games later in the season if you don't make those things happen in Athens, Georgia, or in the postseason, potentially against Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt is tied at the top of the SEC in red zone scoring. Tennessee is near the bottom. If Tennessee continues to have those kinds of mistakes and Vanderbilt takes advantage of opportunities, Tennessee could lose that game. But Tennessee is 7-1. There's also the other side, Eric, because we talked about some of these issues on Monday on Josh and Swain, and a lot of messages came in saying, is Tennessee not 7-1? And both are true. Tennessee is 7-1. Tennessee has overcome some of these issues. In the first half and the second half, we've watched different Tennessee football teams. Not a perfect team in the second half, but a much better team in the first half. So what we said last week, what we've said now for a few weeks, if Tennessee can combine the two halves to have more of a second half look, then Tennessee can really do some damage. If you're skeptical that it's going to happen, I understand why.
And yeah, I mean, even the Tennessee defense allowing some later touchdowns in these games. Well, I mean, they're the reason they kept you in it in the first half when you were shut out, or finally got a touchdown on the board for the first time since Oklahoma game in the first half. On that defense, it wasn't as sharp as stay, but still, I wrote about this. 9th straight game where they've held an opponent under 20 points. You give up 18 points. You force 2 turnovers that go the other way for 14 points for your offense. sign me up. But clearly that was not Tennessee's best day defensively. But I mean, that's just a testament to Tim Banks and that group for just how good it is, man. Because like when you give up 168 rushing yards, it felt like Tennessee got, or was it that much? I can't remember. It felt like Tennessee got ran all over. Yet still, you look up and it's like, oh, that's a pretty good defensive effort, all things considered, right?
Yeah, the opening drive, Kentucky's in scoring position. Tennessee gets the stop on 4th down. Tennessee went into that game best in the nation in stop rate, and that was another example. There have been a number of times, the Oklahoma game, the Florida game at the 1-yard line, Bama in that first half when Jalen Milroe throws the interception, where Tennessee's defense is backed up against it. Happened again at the start of the Kentucky game, and somehow the defense gets out of there. So that's why Tennessee, the biggest reason why I think Tennessee is in this kind of position where we're talking about 7-1 and still the chance to win an SEC title and go to the college football playoff and then see what happens from there. Doesn't mean the defense is perfect, and that's not the expectation. Also, the fact that the defense has done this in a position where sometimes the other team has the advantage. Tennessee's trailed in a lot of these situations, not by a wide margin, but Tennessee has been behind. Eric, if Tennessee's defense had a 2-score lead and the other team's in catch-up mode, and you're saying James Pierce, Joshua Josephs, Tyree West, everybody else up front, just go. They're throwing the football, go get the QB. How do you think that's going to go? So Tennessee's defense has been at a disadvantage and has still done damage all throughout this season.
What is the better story for Tennessee football right now? Is it Will Brooks or Miles Kitzelman? A poster brought this up, a listener on our mailbag show. Braden, actually. And, like, I mean, he threw Deshaun Bishop in there as well, but I don't think he's in the conversation with the other two. I mean, you got Will Brooks, walk on, everybody just so up in arms and so frustrated. Like, why is he out there? This is inexcusable. Well, he's your best safety by a wide margin. And he's producing. And then you have Miles Kitzelman, who was in junior college a couple years ago, couldn't see the field at Alabama. And not only is he Tennessee's starting tight end and you know, plays the most snaps of the three of them, he's a dude. I mean, Tennessee's found some gems in the transfer portal at tight end with McCallan Castles and Miles Kitzelman. Which story's better?
Choosing one and not the other feels like a slight to the other because they're both terrific stories. What Kitzelman has done for this offense has been really important. Both players are examples of you never know, including if you're the coach bringing them in. Tennessee didn't think they were getting this with Miles Kitzelman when they took him as a transfer from Alabama. It's a previous staff, but as much as Jeremy Pruitt liked the idea of bringing Will Brooks in, I'm sure he didn't think that he would be picking off passes in SEC games in key moments or having a pick six in a power conference game against NC State. I'd probably say Brooks because he is a guy who arrived as a walk-on player. The story of why he ends up at Tennessee playing football in the first place because he was a standout lacrosse player, and that could have been an opportunity. Kitzelman at least did transfer from Alabama. He was offered a scholarship by Nick Saban. So his story includes being evaluated by the greatest college football coach of all time to be paid to play football. So Kitzelman's a terrific story. Brooks is a great story. If you make me choose one, I'll choose the former walk-on signee of Will Brooks.
You heard it here, folks. Josh Ward, not a Miles Kitzelman fan.
I thought the Kitzelman moment talking about Dylan Brooks was the coolest postgame moment on Saturday, talking about how much it means to him to be a part of this offense and blog for Dylan Sampson, how he'll be talking to his kids about that in the future, and Sampson showing that genuine appreciation. I thought that was a great moment with Kitzelman, and that's what doesn't get talked about in the transfer portal discussion is, yeah, guys, they find different spots. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. But Kitzelman's the guy that left Alabama, goes to Tennessee, and his experience talking about being at Tennessee is that. Not what it's done for him, but the chance to be a part of somebody else having a huge accomplishment.
You know where Josh Ward lies when it comes to crossover season. He says Dylan Brooks. He means Dylan Sampson. Josh Ward is all about that round ball in the hoop. He loves him some basketball.
Did I say Dylan Brooks?
You did.
Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry.
Just giving you a hard time. Let's transition to Tennessee basketball on that note. Kind of a ho-hum is a good way to describe it. Tennessee didn't start well, didn't finish well, but handled Gardner-Webb the way it needed to. A couple guys are beat up right now. A couple guys didn't play. Overall, your thoughts on seeing Tennessee in the season opener, the win over Gardner-Webb 80-64 Monday night?
Yeah, this is going to be a good Tennessee basketball team. The concerns I have will include how much they're going to rely on Zakai Ziegler all season long at point, post scoring. What's that going to look like? Generating points, there'll be lob opportunities for Akpara. We'll see with Darlin Stone DeBar because he's not necessarily a post player, but a guy with length that his status is in question. And then young guys, how do they come along and what kind of immediate impact is there to start out the season from a guy like JP Estrella? They have scoring options with Chaz Lanier. He's a guy that's going to be able to score and hit shots, but he'll have cold nights, and that'll be something we talk about like we did out of the exhibition game against Indiana. I think leadership and chemistry and all that will be fine and will work itself out. There might be games where it doesn't seem as natural because last season we were talking about guys that had played 4 to 5 years together in basketball, and this is a team that's trying to come together. But this is going to be one of the top teams, I think, in the SEC. I think Alabama and Auburn are rightfully favored atop the league. I think Arkansas, Kentucky, Texas A&M, Florida will all be really interesting. But if Tennessee can defend, if Tennessee can have some good health luck, and Zakai can hold up, then Tennessee is going to be a problem for a lot of teams to deal with. They'll get even better as the season goes along defensively. If they rebound, if they hit shots consistently, when I say that, multiple guys being available, because there is no Dalton on this team. Even if Lanier can be a big-time shooter, expecting him to be Dalton is unfair, but the team itself can be really, really good.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite parts about this box score that I'm looking at right now, like you bring Chaz in to score. He's not going to be Dalton, but you brought him in to score. I love seeing Jordan Gainey 16 off the bench. You can't expect to get double digits off the bench every single game for him, but if you can get close to it, I think that'd be a huge boost. Because, again, nobody, as you point out, nobody's going to be Dalton Connect, but you do have to replace the production in terms of scoring, and that needs to come from a couple different guys, and I think Jordan Gainey needs to play a big role in that.
Yeah, for sure. He's a guy that kind of got skipped over in the leadership part of the conversation this offseason. A lot of it was about Zakai and Jemai Mashak, rightfully so, in talking about their roles, but Gainey comes back as a veteran player who was a part of the rotation last year. Tennessee has to replace a lot of key players from the rotation, but they do have Zakai, Gainey, and Mashak who play the right way. They understand exactly what their individual roles are for the team, and that's something for others to follow. So when we talk about newcomers, Gainey is somebody that has to be remembered in the rotation. I'll be curious to see what Cam Carr's role is as this season goes along, because I think a lot of people recognize his upside and what he can become as a player. He stood out at the Jason Tatum elite camp that he took part in sometime during the offseason. He has big-time upside. Will we see – how much of it will we see this season is one of the questions for me with Tennessee.
Last one out the door, and let's go back to the gridiron with football. This whole time we didn't really bring up Nico. I thought he played his best game. I don't know what his run reads are on every single one of those, so I'm sure he didn't grade out, 100%. But throwing the football, he was good, and his stats should have been that much better. Really good version of Nico Iamaleava the other night, and he's played 6 really good quarters. So with the offense continuing to struggle, man, if you're a fan, I think that should, again, it's just like, well, the run game's there. The quarterback's playing well. The offensive tackles are being a little – I heard you guys talk about Josh and Swain the other day. The offensive tackles are playing better. So it's like check, check, check. So now just go and finish in the red zone. Right. And maybe they will this week, but Nico's playing good.
Yeah, what would seem like the easiest part of the puzzle was not completed this past weekend. I'm not saying that catching a football in an SEC game is just easy, but – Brazel just has to come down with it. And if he does, that's a lot of yards. It's another touchdown, more points. And the feeling around the offense, the narrative around Nico changes. Nico's job is to deliver the football. It's to make the right play. And he did that over and over again on Saturday night. And he wasn't playing the best team that he'll face, but he was coming out of a stretch where he hasn't played great. And in the second half against Alabama, he was better. In the 4 quarters against Kentucky, he was better. That is a really good sign for Nico. We'll see what happens against Georgia. That's a much bigger test for obvious reasons. But the progress that fans were concerned wouldn't come this season just a few weeks ago and doubted in a lot of ways, we've seen recently. So that has to make fans feel better. Josh Heupel feel better. Nico, he's probably looking for reasons to feel more confident about what he's done on the field, not what he's capable of doing, and his legs continuing to be a part of what they do in key spots. That's important for Tennessee's offense. So a great sign, I thought, for Nico and how he played.
Josh Ward, catch him weekdays on 99.1 The Sports Animal, noon to 3 with VFL Jason Swain, and the Josh and Swain newsletter every Friday morning around 9 o'clock. It's in your inbox, and of course, you can sign up for that newsletter. It is free in the show notes right now. Josh, thanks so much, man.
Thanks, Eric.
All right, that will do it here for this edition of Locked On Vols here on a Wednesday. Guys, thanks so much for being here. Appreciate Grant Ramey and Josh Ward stopping by and talking a little Tennessee football, Tennessee basketball. Appreciate you guys for being here. We'll continue to dive into the matchup with Tennessee and Mississippi State. We'll talk Dylan Sampson and Heisman. We'll continue to react to Tennessee's placement in the college football playoff rankings, all that and more as the week goes on. Right here, your number one spot for Tennessee football news and entertainment, weekday mornings, 30 minutes or less, free and available wherever you get your podcast. You know the drill. This is Locked On Vols.